This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Stros, we have something to talk about, and that's actually two somethings, but one of them's news you care about, and the other one's just, personal life stuff we're gonna get into. We're gonna make the two topics epic, though, because we're on a little bit of a time crunch, and I think we got two good topics. So I didn't want to, lately, Stros, we seem to go over a lot. I didn't want to stretch ourselves and cut things short. I want to let us have some fun. The Lions have signed GM Brad Holmes. He was the director of college scouting with the Los Angeles Rams. We're gonna get into that in a second. Also, I've been dealing with Burnout City. I don't know that I felt the burnout like this ever in my life. We're gonna get into that in a little bit. And ask if you've ever kind of gotten yourself into your own burnout. I've done it to myself. So we're gonna get there. But first, we got some big news to talk about. And Stros, you texted me because we had a rundown ready this morning, and obviously got changed a little bit. But I think things kind of they kind of line up perfectly. Because what we were going to talk about before this news was, does this GM search feel different? You thought it did. I thought you were cute. I'm really curious for the update. They've hired the GM now. Do you feel like this was different?
I feel like the process was different, and that's what I liked about what they did. This was not one of those things where they just ran out and they just hired a guy. Or they were like, hey, we want this guy. They targeted somebody before they ever interviewed anybody.
So in that sense, it's definitely different than Bob Quinn. If all you want to ask is, was it different than Bob Quinn? I'm right there.
No. I think this was different. I think even the coaching search is different. This is different than what happened when Martin Mayhew was hired. This was, or not Martin Mayhew, but
Mayhew, to be fair, Mayhew was an extension of the Millen regime, right? He was already on staff.
This is different than the Millen. What happened with Matt Millen? With Steve Mariucci getting hired. So this feels, all of this all the way around feels like it's different. And look, I've been super critical of Sheila Ford, Hamp. I've been super critical of the Lions. Out of the two of us, I have probably been the one that has buried them at least 47 times now.
And that was going to be the big part of this podcast before we had a hiring announced, is, for me, each version of the Lions regime needs to be treated differently. You need to, I'm not even telling you need to entirely wipe the slate clean. You're allowed to look and say, look, the history of the Lions ownership has not been good under the Ford. But you can't hold Millen against the current people. It's just not fair. And it sounds like you've kind of maybe come over to that side. At least in this case.
Yes, in this case. So the way they've conducted themselves and the way they handled themselves, it gives me cause to be excited for what the future might hold. I was going to ask,
are you excited? Are you excited by this fight? You are! I see your face.
So here's the thing.
I see your face.
So Brad Holmes doesn't necessarily excite me. If I was to give you a list of guys and I was to put them in order, he was probably my fourth or fifth selection. All right? But I'm excited for the way that they have conducted themselves, which leads me to believe that maybe they get this right.
With that face, how many people were going to excite you? Your face told me everything. You could shut up the rest of the podcast, and I would know how you feel about this hiring. So you don't ever make faces like that. The only time you make faces like that is when we talk about, like, the childhood you had watching the Red Wings. Like, that's it.
Look, I'm excited because I feel like this is a different iteration of the Detroit Lions. I feel like they actually conducted themselves like an actual organization. It's weird to me. They even went out and they back-channeled to talk to other GMs, which is something that this organization has never done.
And we talked about it last week. Well, I thought they did a lot right last time in searching for Bob Quinn by taking recommendations from the NFL. I thought that was a big move on their part. But you're right. We heard that Sean McVay was asked about this hiring, and you like hearing that they're talking to people in the organization about what this guy does and how they feel about him. I can't get excited about a GM hire, and it's funny because I say that, right? And then sure, these pieces come out throughout the day, and I'll say I'm always going to be toned down about a GM hire, and for the most part, a coaching hire. I think a coaching hire we can see a little bit more. When they're a coordinator, especially on offense, there are things I know I like to see. I know I want to see a guy who throws the ball more than he runs the ball. I know I want to see a guy who will not run very often on second and long. I want to see a guy who's going to use motion, who's going to use play action. So like I can watch an offense, and I had that thought. We'll get into it a little bit in the second topic. If I feel up to it, I think it could be fun to watch. Assuming they hire a play caller, it could be fun to watch said play caller some of his past seasons. But with the GM, there's so little to be known about what these guys do. And that qualifies for Brad Holmes. Now, I did listen to a podcast Pride of Detroit did, talking with, Vincent Bones, I'm not 100% sure how that thing said, Bonsier maybe, who covered the Rams for a while, who was able to talk about him, prior to the Lions hiring him. And the Athletic has a couple really good pieces on the Rams college scouting system and how it's the most in-depth in all of football. And they prioritize analytics. They prioritize taking out, they do things differently. You like to read that kind of stuff. And I'll tell you what, I said this to some friends in a group chat today. I'm only going to get so excited about a GM hire because I think even if you found the perfect guy, even if he checks every single box, I still think it's very possible that he can't run the NFL franchise. I think it's a very difficult thing to do, and there's not a blueprint for it. I'm never going to come out and say this is the guy at GM, but the Lions said something in their statement that I really liked. And it was that they had an appreciation for the role he played in instituting technology and analytics into the scouting department with the Rams. And those are two things that if you're not embracing in sports today, you're falling behind. So I'm not going to tell you that this is a guy I love, a guy I hate, or anything like that, but I like seeing what they like about him. If they truly see that as something he brings to the table, that's really important to me.
And this is something else, too. You have to remember, the Rams are an organization that over the course of the last 4 years haven't had a first-round draft pick. Yet, with him at the helm of their college scouting, they've been able to pull 13 starters, which I think is a big deal. You know, you don't have a first-round pick. You've actually taken your first-round pick and you traded it to get other guys in here to help your team. And that's because he said, yeah, let's go this direction, because I don't feel like there's a guy out there who's going to be better than what we could get if we trade it. So I think you have a guy who understands how it works. And I think that's what really makes me excited.
I'm not going to look at anything they did this free agency. I just happen to believe he probably did play a major role as a director of college scouting. There are some minor concerns in his draft pick. Like, for example, they've taken a running back in the top 3 rounds 2 years in a row. And I'm not saying you can't ever do that, but you know how I feel about that. That's not something
you hate that. You hate that.
And well, I want you to know, it's not like I'm alone. It's not like this conspiracy theory that I have. Like, there's a lot of belief, by the way, Stros, in the analytical community that running backs don't matter. Mathbomb on Twitter, who I believe works with Pride of Detroit, was going over it, some of his thoughts as well, and he had some concerns. Basically said what I said. You can't crucify a guy, you can't love a guy, but he wasn't in love with him by any means. The running back was one of his concerns. Another concern he had was a lack of focus on, I believe I want to say the front seven. Undersized offensive linemen as well. So there are some concerns to be had, but I have a hard time. Like, here's what I'm gonna say. If I was gonna grade this, I don't think I would ever give a grade above a B plus or below a C minus. So it's a very small range to work within. That being said, like I feel like a B about it. Like I could be more excited, but it feels sound. It feels like they picked the right things to look at. And I'll tell you what, judging him starts now. Because I will absolutely judge him on the coaching hire. I do think you can judge a coaching hire much more than you can judge a GM.
I absolutely agree with you 100% here. This is the thing. This is what I'll say. And I already mentioned that he was not my number one guy. But this is what I'll say. There is a lot to like about him. A lot that he brings to the table that can make you interested, makes me interested. There's a lot of good. There are some things where you question it a little bit, right? You brought up the running backs in the draft. You brought up how he's kind of constructed the defensive side of the ball, especially in the trenches and up front. What you know about him is this is a guy who really understands how the NFL draft works. And I think for myself, that was something key. I wanted a guy who was really good at the draft. And we've talked about the draft before where you're going to swing and you're going to miss. It's one of those things. Even the best GMs miss about 50% of the time. but I want a guy who's going to come in and really capitalize and get guys who are going to start in those second and third rounds, and then get good players in the fourth and fifth round. And he's a guy who looks like he can do that with his track record. And I think that's something you can build upon. You brought up the analytics. I think the analytics this is an organization that is a little bit prehistoric when it comes to the way that they do things. And when Bob Quinn came in, he really helped kind of kickstart some of this. But
the
analytics part of it is
slower
great.
to move. The NFL's been a lot slower to move towards the analytics. In the NBA and the MLB, it was like you saw one team really do it well, and then everybody followed. The NFL has been much slower in doing that. So I'm not going to murder the Lions for where they're at right now. Like you said, they at least entered the game, in recent history, but I'd love to see them become leaders in it. Something worth noting and I honestly, I don't know that we've ever mentioned other podcasts on this show, but I would give a huge recommendation if you want to hear about this guy, for listening to the podcast that Pride of Detroit did with the former Rams beat writer. Something he talked about as well is you mentioned, Strohs, the Rams haven't had first round draft picks lately. And the narrative in the national media, understandably, has been they're going all in to win now. And what he said is it was very clear from working there that the organization didn't feel that way. The organization was trading first round draft picks because they had a belief in their scouts, their draft process to fill the roster of talented players without a first, but second, and their ability to develop those players. And that's obviously something that the Lions are going to have translate for them. But I think that's important to note. Like, the Rams didn't make these trades with the belief that they were win-now trades. They made these trades with the belief that they could sustain greatness without first-round draft picks. And that's something you want to be able to do. You want Brad Holmes to, if the Lions get to a place where they're contenders, you want Brad Holmes to feel comfortable moving a first to try and win now while trusting his ability to still find high-end talent in the draft.
No, absolutely. You're spot on with that assessment or with bringing that up. The thing I'll say is what excites me most about Brad Holmes coming in is his ability to manipulate the draft. And I'm going to be interested to see what he does this year because they don't have a ton of draft capital. I want to see how he's going to make moves, how he's going to make things happen. And look, you're a Matt Stafford guy, right? You could go either way with him, right? Whether they keep him or they trade him.
This year, yeah. No, I'm open to whatever route he feels is best.
I think this is going to be a big decision he has to make right off the bat. I think it goes coaching first, whoever he brings in as his head coach, and then from there, I think he's got to figure out what he's going to do with Matt Stafford because on this roster, Matt Stafford is the guy who can net you the most. And going into this draft, you don't have a ton of capital. You don't have a lot that you can do. So do you move back from the seventh overall pick, or do you possibly trade Matt Stafford and then pick up an extra first somewhere and then try to package it to move up to grab your quarterback? You could take a look at what's going on in Jacksonville where they hired Urban Meyer. Now, I think we both agree Trevor Lawrence goes number one, but they have the number one overall draft pick. Is Justin Fields now an option for Urban Meyer?
I think it's unlikely, but he can play.
No, exactly. And so with that being said, if you're the Detroit Lions and you're absolutely looking at getting a quarterback, that's the case. This now puts a little bit more pressure on you because maybe you do have to move up to number two. It's weird, man, because this is exciting. If you're a Detroit Lions fan, this is exciting.
Well, it's a fresh start, right?
Yeah.
And I'll say this, if you want to go back to whether or not this is different. The Lions haven't had a true fresh start really in a very long time because when you fired Millen, you promoted Mayhew. And I'll still swear by Mayhew. I kind of think he might have been a damn good GM, and I know he got an interview this go round. Very few guys get second chances. In fact, I should mention it at least. Paulie Mack sent me something over. I believe there's only 2 current GMs that are retreads. And Martin Mayhew got an interview. I don't remember with who. But when Millen was fired, you went with Mayhew, who was part of his staff. And then when you hired Bob Quinn, he kept Jim Caldwell. And then when Jim Caldwell was fired, you brought in a part of Bob Quinn's staff. There's been this carryover from staff to staff to staff. Everything's been blown out at this point. Now he could opt to keep Bevel and I guess kind of change that. I certainly think the expectation is not that that's what's going to happen. But it looks like you're going to have a totally fresh start. I don't want to jump too far ahead into the quarterback stuff. I'm sure there will be plenty of time to talk about that throughout the throughout the offseason, I really strongly believe that Stafford's here to stay. You know, I think he's got a comfortable 3 years left as a starting quarterback in the NFL. And to be honest with you, I think it's a lot closer to 5 or 6. So I don't think they're going to move on to him, though I'm certainly open to it. What I do want to talk about is the coaching situation, because there has been a name to pop up really recently, and that's Brandon Staley, the defensive coordinator with the Rams, whose name has been popular, and all of a sudden you got somebody from the Rams organization. Like, where are you at on that? Because I got to be honest with you, Stroh, I don't think I'm going to write off any coaching hire outside of Marvin Lewis. I would write off Marvin Lewis. I don't think I'd be excited about that.
I wouldn't be excited about that either. I think it starts with Robert Saleh, and then after Robert Saleh,
that's not looking so great right now.
No, it's not. So after Robert Saleh, then it's probably Eric Bieniemy, and then after that, it's Arthur Smith would probably be my next guy.
Yeah, I think I'm actually in the same place with Arthur Smith. I think he's the guy I'd rather go. I just, you know, I defended Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia for bringing in former Patriots because I think that is what happened. Not just in the NFL, but everywhere. Like, people hire people they know. It's just normal. But I would like to see a change from that. And I don't love hiring, like, I know they had a great defense, but man, you had Aaron Donald and you had Jalen Ramsey. These are guys like, I mean, Aaron Donald might be the best defensive player in the entire league, and Jalen Ramsey's probably top 10, top 15. So those are such key pieces that you're not going to have here. There's value in guys who work together. I know it didn't work with the Patriot way. I do think there's value in two guys you know can work well together. But honestly, I find myself thinking, like, right now on the list of hires I don't want Marvin Lewis, and then I don't want to hire the Rams defensive coordinator.
Yes.
I feel like I'm pretty open almost everywhere else right now.
I'm right there with you. It would actually scare me if that's the direction they go. How scary is it for you that you have a first-time GM and then you'd have a first-time head coach? You don't have anybody with that experience.
But the guys that you like aren't retreads.
Yes.
Saleh's not a retread. Bieniemy's not a retread. Arthur Smith's not a retread.
No. Yeah, they're all guys, and that's the thing. I'm not, with those guys, I'm not necessarily scared about it. With Staley, I'm a little bit nervous, and it's probably because you guys come from the same place. And you talked about it where you hire people that you know, you hire people that basically are familiar with you because you both work together well. But sometimes that can get a little bit dangerous because you don't have different perspectives on things. You don't see things differently. I would like a different head coach or a head coach coming from a different organization just because they see things a little bit different than maybe you do. And it might help. You might get a little bit creative with how you do things.
Well, we'll see where things go. I think right now he's probably one of the biggest names on the Lions' radar. In one sense, you almost want the Rams to succeed in the playoffs to try and push the Lions in a different direction.
For sure.
But that's going to be the first thing I judge them on. That will be a negative mark for me. It won't be if they go that route, I'm going to let it play out. It's going to be very hard for me to be furious. Again, outside of Marvin Lewis, I don't think I will be furious.
Let me give you my list real quick of the GMs. Cause you sat there and you made fun of me because I was all smiles and now it looked like I was watching, the 1997 Red Wings hoist the Stanley Cup here.
You did. And you don't know I really do this. I genuinely don't know.
I got the video. I'm going to go back. I'm going to watch the video. I'll see myself grinning from ear to ear. But Kevin Colbert was my number one guy. A guy who has experience, a guy who has done it, a guy who has done it well with a historic franchise like the Pittsburgh Steelers. After that, it was Ed Dodds. After Ed Dodds, it was probably Jeff Ireland. After Jeff Ireland, probably Thomas Dimitroff. And because Dimitroff had success in Atlanta, I love his hair. I think he's the coolest guy in the room. But I like Jeff Ireland because again, he's a college guy. In New Orleans, you've got your pro player personnel and you got your college personnel. Jeff Ireland's a guy who handles the college scouting. So that's why. And then Ed Dodds is an assistant GM. He was probably my number one guy. And he comes from a Seattle organization that's had a ton of success, and he was part of that. And you're seeing what they're doing in Indianapolis right now.
All right, my list, I didn't have one. We don't know very much about these GMs. The only thing that I loved was that they were supposedly going off after John Snyder, who actually runs the Seahawks. If you could steal a guy who's successfully running the team currently, yeah, like, of course, I would love that. That's the one rare thing that would have me ecstatic. Aside from that, it's all after the fact reading. I'm not gonna love it. I'm not gonna hate it. I feel pretty good. And I'm sure we'll be doing a very early judgments on this stuff as we get a coach, as you see what they do with Stafford, how the draft looks. So we'll talk about this a lot more. But topic 2 today, burn out. Dude, I can't even explain to you. We talked literally last week, right?
For the listeners, just so everybody understands how me and B connect with each other. We use Skype. I get to see him. He gets to see me. B looks like he needs a sandwich and a nap.
You know what's funny is I can't even describe to you how much better I'm doing today than yesterday. And really,
you sounded so down yesterday just through text message.
We didn't even talk yesterday. Like we texted. I don't know.
We texted, but like through text message, you seemed like, I looked at Alyssa. I was like, B doesn't seem like he's doing great today.
There's no way. You actually said that.
I said that to her, yeah.
Dude, no. So we talked about it last week and about how like I was exhausted. In fact, I think that was literally the point of our second segment. But it took me a while to like totally grasp it. And the question I want to ask is, we don't always do this anymore. I'm exhausted and I'm burnt out, but it's from doing stuff I love. So I want to ask the question, like, have you ever been there? Have you gone too far in something that you enjoy and burned yourself out? And so where that starts is the TikTok videos, right? Like I had posted every single day. Actually, let me look right now. Let me look and see when the first one was posted. So I did not post a TikTok yet. That was the first time that I didn't post a TikTok video since December 12th. So I went over a whole month of posting every single day. And keep in mind, like, I got to make the content, first of all. Then I have to edit the content. And I had no video editing experience before all of it. Then I got to publish it. And then on top of that, it's just mentally exhausting, right? And then on top of it, I'm constantly paying attention to how it's doing. And then I'm constantly reading and watching videos on how to improve on this stuff. Cause I'm trying to like turn this into something. And then on top of that, I have my NFL playoff bracket, which I was, I do every year, but that's a lot of work the week before the playoffs start. I mean, I'd probably spend a good 6 or 7 hours on that before the first week of the playoffs. And then on top of that, I was just home for 2 weeks and constantly with friends and family. And on top of that, have you seen what's going on in Houston sports? And so it's all mental, none of it's physical, but it was just so much. I got home last week on Monday, right? And of course I was working like crazy last week. And I was like, when I got to the weekend, I was like, man, I need a break. Didn't get one. Busy like crazy. This week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, like every day, I just felt physically drained. And I was confused. I was actually thinking about getting a COVID test because I felt tired. And I didn't feel sick at all. Like literally nothing else about me felt sick, but I just felt too tired to do anything. And it really hit me yesterday because like, I was like, I'm not going to post a video tomorrow. I didn't have one ready today. I was like, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to take a day off and see how I'm feeling tomorrow. And then at 7 o'clock, I was like, no, like I need to start editing a video. I shit you not, 10 o'clock yesterday, I decided I was going to post a video. Spent like 30 minutes on it and was like, I just can't. Like, I don't have the energy to do this. So I just laid around watching Netflix literally all day, from like 3 p.m. to like 10 o'clock yesterday. And then today I woke up and for the first time I didn't feel like I couldn't get out of bed. And it's not even like when I say get out of bed, I don't even mean like depressed. Just exhausted. Just tired. Just like, even though none of this is physical work, it just felt like I was on 24/7. And, I'm a little nervous because I want to get back into this and I got to figure out like the way I looked at it. And I'm sorry, Stros, I've dominated the last 5 minutes, but I've looked at this like it's been so much fun because I've been learning what works with these videos and learning what works on TikTok and learning so much and I've loved it. But I kind of realized that this week is part of me learning how I need to do this, and still allow myself to, not feel dead. Cause like, I don't know how much longer I could have forced myself to go day after day after day after day. Like, I just felt tired and like done and like I just need to lay down and do nothing for too long.
And I get that. Like, that happened. For me, it's working out. The last couple of weeks with working out, and I love working out. The gym is kind of my safe space. It's my solace. I get time to just put headphones in, and for an hour or 2 hours, however long I'm at the gym, it's just me, and I have tunnel vision, and I just go, and the intensity is great, and it helps me work out all of my stress. There have been times where I pulled up in the gym parking lot. I've mixed my protein shake and I've had my pre-workout, and I pull up in the parking lot and I'm just sitting there and I'm like, I don't want to get out of the car. I don't want to go in. And like, I've already done the hard part. I'm there. All I've got to do is walk in. Once you walk in, you're good to go. But I will turn around and drive out of the parking lot and go back home. Because
that's how my normal gym visit looks like.
Just because I don't feel like working out that day. And it's been like this now for 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks. It's been a while, and it's frustrating to me. There is, if you work out and you work out regularly, you understand that there is an intensity that you normally will bring to your workouts. And when that intensity is lacking, it's not fun.
Dude,
it's not
honestly,
good.
It's so relatable because, you know what's funny, and funny is maybe the wrong word to use. It's actually, it's kind of eye-opening. It is, I go back and watch these videos of the last couple times I've gained, and it's just like my personality is not there. Mm-hmm. And you don't even realize it necessarily in the moment. But when you're burnt out like that, you just can't bring it to them. And it doesn't do you any good to push through and just do what you need to do. For you, if you're not working out intense enough, you're not getting the same workout. For me, if I'm not the personality that I need to be, you know, one, nobody wants to watch it, and two, like, if you look at my TikTok, I had been on a roll for a little bit, and lately they've slowed down. It's because it's not good content. Like, I'm just not there. And I don't know, man. It's weird. Because I can't say it's something I have done a lot. Like, I've been burnt out before, but I don't know if I've ever let it get this far. Like, normally a day off, I'm good to hop right back in. It's crazy. Because, like, the reason I'm this burnt out is because I've enjoyed it so much. Like, I've loved it so much that it's the only thing I've done. Like, and I think it's important to note for me, like, making these videos isn't that different than making the podcast and then going to work and you know, working on a radio show. Like, I said this to you in a text. I just feel like I've had to be on personality, like 24/7 for a month now. And it's a lot.
It's weird. And I don't think people who put themselves out there like that really understand it. And it's tough to bring it the same way you want to bring it every time. And me and you are the first people, when we don't do a good show, we are hypercritical of ourselves. You know what I'm saying?
I've never done that, so I don't have any idea. So real talk, like, I'm not gonna say I disagree with what you're saying. I've had shows where I'm like, that wasn't great. Mm-hmm. But, I don't feel that often. And maybe because when I do, like, it's stronger. Like, I can't remember the last show we did where I got off and went, that wasn't great.
Because normally we do pretty good shows.
I don't know. We've probably had a bad one here or there that I should have.
For sure, we've had a clunker. But, like, to go back, like, here's the thing. We know when we've killed it, right?
Sure. Yeah, I would agree with that. We definitely know when we've done a great show.
Yeah. Like, you'll text me or I'll text you, and, like, it's usually because I'm going back through it, I'm editing, and I'm listening to it, and I'm dying sitting here listening to it. And I'm like, man, this was a good show, and I'll message you. I'm like, this was a really, really good show. But there are other times where we've even said it, like, hey, the last couple weeks it wasn't as great, you know? And there are times where we put out A+ material, and there are times where we put out what would equate to a bunt in baseball.
Well, you know I'm a fan of bunts, but, not in real baseball. It's funny because honestly, this show, it seems like something that should contribute to my burnout, right? It almost seems like I should have canceled for a day. And maybe I should have. I guess we'll see. But I think there's like a new level to when you're putting videos out every single day. And like, it takes me, I would say probably a good half hour to 45 minutes per video when you consider that I have to find the video, then I have to edit it. And then one of the big things I've been doing lately is captioning it has gone a long way. And it's just, it's every single day I don't get a break. And I don't know what it's going to look like me getting back into it. I'm a little nervous about it.
Is there a way that you could, because you do have a pretty busy schedule, is there a way that you could, you know, do 2, maybe 3 days on, 1 day off, 2 days on, 1 day off?
The problem, and I don't know if I feel like you would relate to this. There's a part of me that feels like if I'm trying to make something happen, if I'm not going 100%, then why am I doing it? And we're not.
I understand 100%.
Full disclosure, we're not going all the way on this podcast like we were when we first started it. And I'm still enjoying it, but like when we first started it, we were doing like we were putting more time into prep. We were, cutting promos for every episode. And I think that was because there was more of a clear, we were trying to get ourselves put on the air at 96.1 Interactive. This is a little bit different. This is, not that we don't take it seriously, but I think it's more now some of a fun outlet than it was like this giant project, right? And with the TikTok videos, like this is a project. This is something that I'm trying to build an audience. I want to be able to, and I hope to, once I, can get myself back in the right headspace, I want to start streaming too. Like I want to build an audience there, and not posting every day is, it's not great for that. And maybe I'll have to figure it out. Maybe I'll have to find a way to get myself to understand that I can't do that right now. But I don't know. I don't think the answer is, could I post out every day? Yes. Will I? I don't know. I had when I first started, I was consistently ahead. So if I needed a day off, I could take it, and I haven't been there in a long time. When I went home, like it took a lot of time away from me. I think the ideal world, what I'd do is I'd get 5 or 6, ready. So when I need a day off, I can take it. But I'm just not in that place right now. And I'm gonna have to get myself into a headspace where I can take a day or two to get there.
Mm-hmm. And, I don't think there's anything wrong, and I think you might have to do this, where you just take some time away. And look, I think your audience is gonna be there when you come back. I don't think they're gonna go away. I think this is what I have to do myself. I've got to figure out a new schedule, right? Whether it be a new workout regime.
You got a whole regime. Life thing. I can't imagine that helps.
That doesn't. Everything is different right now. Everything is kind of off the wall and bonkers to start a new job. But I think you might have to just kind of figure out that new routine, right? So like for me, figuring out a new workout routine. For you, maybe it's 3 on, 1 off, 2 on, 1 off, or maybe it's 5 days strong, 2 days off.
We're figuring it out over here, how we're both gonna get our lives back where we want them. That's what it sounds like.
Can we both just get on radio? Can we just do that? I think we'd both be happier.
This segment would have a serious tone to it, but it has maybe a little bit more than I thought it would. And that's not a bad thing. We don't go there a lot.
No, we don't. We tend to try to keep it light and try to have fun.
So I really would love to hear from anyone listening. Like, what is it that you've burnt yourself out on? Because I've done it before, but never like this. And maybe that's just part of like, shows, maybe I'm just getting older. Maybe at 27, those rest days are a little bit more important than they were. I know for your old ass, that's part of the reason you can't work out every day anymore.
That's accurate. Facts always hurting.
I don't got anything else though. You got anything else you need to get into? As far as this conversation goes, or anything else?
I think this was a pretty cathartic episode here.
Well, this is basically 2 episodes in a row I've made about me being tired.
We're gonna ride this train until it dies.
Well, no, that's the problem. I've been doing that for a month, Stroh.
Next week, how tired is B? Tune in and find out.
This is a 30-minute segment of me sleeping. You hear me snoring in the background while Stroh's monologue.
That would be great.
All right. Well, we might check in on us next week, both of us, but hopefully it's not the whole segment. Maybe we could try and get a little bit more lighthearted, a little bit more fun, in the middle segment next week. Like I said, short episode this week. Hope you enjoyed it. Who knows? Next week, we're getting into the time of year where if we don't have Lions news next week on a coach, we probably do very, very soon. So we're going to have some fun stuff to get into.